So in case people don't know about this, what happened was like last week and through the weekend, the convicted terrorist supporter and inciter of violence and racism, Itamar Ben Gvir, who is the Minister of Security in Israel, he did a speaking tour in the U.S. and his tour was met understandably and righteously with lots of counter protests. And there were clashes that broke out at multiple places. Jen, as someone who was there, what say you?
So we only heard like super last minute that this terrorist was even going to be there. We knew that he was in New York. I think he had like a couple disruptions earlier in the afternoon, but I only see word like in an autonomous group that I'm in that he was going to be there. And it was super last minute. We didn't know even if it was confirmed. And I live in Queens, and I was like, hell no, like I'm still making my way out there, even if it's 9:30 p.m. at night. And we showed up, and there was only a small group of us. And I guess before we started making it known that like we were there like to protest him, it was very quiet outside. There was nobody outside really. There was like a small, you wouldn't have thought that there would be anywhere close to the amount of people like that were inside that building. Like there were only maybe a dozen of them like outside. But as soon as we kind of started chanting and like have, there were maybe like 8-10 of us at that point, like maybe right at like 9:30, 9:45. And as soon as we started like even, saying Palestine or anything, it was just, it then became just a huge mass, and we were completely overrun. So I think maybe in total, like the largest size of us that were there with maybe like 40 people. And there were probably close to 1,000 of, these Zionist thugs outside.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting, but not surprising that this wasn't more in the news, because at the global headquarters of the Chabad Lubavitch movement, Ben Gvir supporters not only brutalized protesters, one being a Jewish woman with an Israeli passport, and another an Orthodox Jewish anti-Zionist protest, but also mobbed, assaulted, and chased a random woman down a block.
When we first saw her video, like the lone woman, we were all, cause there were so few of us that we kind of like knew everyone who was there. Right. And we were all just like, who was that? Like we didn't, right. She wasn't with us. And we were maybe there for in total like an hour and a half. And it just got to a point where it obviously was like too dangerous for us to be there. And we're watching, there were a lot of police there. There were at least, I don't know, there were dozens of police, but they weren't laying a single hand on them. And it was pretty wild to see. And we made the collective decision, like, we have to leave together as a group. Like, no one is breaking off. No one's staying. Like, we are leaving together.
Well, let's take a look at this, because you posted some video of what happened.
Yeah.
I know a lot of you were asking about how the woman with the head injury was doing. I spoke to her. She's doing okay. As a former ER nurse and forensic examiner who has seen and assessed a lot of wounds, to me, it looked like she got hit in the head with like a brick. It was a very deep wound, very straight, profusely bleeding. She ended up needing multiple stitches. It was a concussive head injury. And I actually needed to call EMS from inside the mob and ask for help because, yeah. And by the way, she's Jewish.
Okay, so that is what these, people who value Jewish lives. I mean, obviously, it's not okay if the person had been Palestinian. It just makes it extra ironic that she happens to be Jewish and have an Israeli passport. But I mean, imagine if this happened to a Jewish person who was, instead of protesting against Ben Gvir, was defending Ben Gvir. In other words, a Zionist Jew. Do you think we'd see more coverage of this? Maybe
it's either, actually, I think in the New York Times released an article about what happened the other day, and they did mention that there were 6 arrests made, and 5 of those were on our side. There was only one arrest made, and I saw, there were so many assaults that happened that night. And I haven't even gone through like all the footage on my phone. And that's with everyone that was there. And there were so many assaults that happened. The police watched all of us get assaulted. And the only person that they arrested that entire night that I saw was over a sound permit. It was just like unreal. I've been in the streets like for this and been in New York for a long time and have dealt with Zionists for quite a while now, and gone to a lot of dealt with, I guess, that type of Zionists. Like, I've gone to a lot of the protests over the illegal land sales. Like, we deal with the Zionists, like, constantly, but this was next level. Like, I don't think any of us ever expected like that it would be this extreme, and not just that extreme, but seeing the police so blatantly. Clearly there is some messaging that they're receiving to not lay a single hand on anyone. Like, how do you watch someone? And there was even I got thrown to the ground. I got my Palestinian flag stolen from me, and then a grown man, probably like twice my age, threw me to the ground, and there were police that watched it, and nobody did anything. But that's just one story out of like dozens. And the video that you showed of the woman that got hit in the head with a brick, that was like blocks away from this, the Jewish supremacist headquarters. They were chasing us for blocks, and the police like weren't doing anything. They were like watching us just get chased. And then when this woman, they were the thugs, they kept breaking us up, trying to, like come in between us. Like they were throwing eggs, throwing bottles, ripping hijabs off. I saw one of them even take the, and
so
then
someone was wearing a kippah, a religious Jew.
Yes, they were. I mean, there were like a lot of the
observant Jews,
supportive Jewish supportive activists on our side.
Right.
And they even seeing like the way that those Zionists treat them, they're especially disgusting to them. Right. And obviously Traitors. It's not about religion. Like it's never been about religion, but that's what they use. But when that woman got hit in the head with the brick, we were already like kind of all broken up, and there was so much going on. And then someone came to maybe like the group that I was in, like we were literally like just like somebody's like, it was emergency. Like we all like ran back, and then we all like surrounded her, and we had to call EMS from inside the mob. Like there's dozens of police. They're witnessing everything. This woman's profusely bleeding, and I had to call EMS myself. Like have you ever heard of that happening before?
No.
And then by the time EMS got there, I was an ER nurse, so I'm on the other end, like when the patient arrives, but I have never seen in my entire life EMS being called and EMS not going to the victim and not going and assessing the victim and taking the victim from where, she's laying basically on the ground with a concussive head injury. And the police can't even like get the crowd under control. They make her get up. They make her walk to the ambulance herself. Like that's totally insane and inappropriate and dangerous, and it's actually completely like unethical, and I've never seen that happening in my life. Like she had a concussive head injury and she had to walk herself through the mob because I'm sure EMS like told the police like we're not going in there.
Right.
And then the police was just like, okay, like we'll just go grab her ourselves instead of doing anything to handle this like rapist mob.
But it is stunning that it didn't get more coverage and result in more arrests. Jen, I want to thank you for joining, and also definitely come back. But any final words that you want to share about this experience?
Specifically talking about like the lone woman that was getting chased, I don't think that there's any woman that can watch that footage and just not, put ourselves in her shoes. Close to like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 women in her lifetime will be raped. Most of us have experienced sexual violence in our life. And the fact that the NYPD watched this happen, watched all of us get mobbed, it's frightening. And especially for the women that live in that neighborhood, because, I have a friend that lives like very close to there, and like they're scared because what we saw that night was there's no accountability, and if any event happens like that, like who's going to protect us? Because the NYPD was not capable. So it just really goes to show that like this needs to be like a larger conversation about sexual violence in the city, about what the NYPD is capable of doing. It, at least from my experience, and not just that experience, is they're not capable of doing much. So, and this is like a huge problem in our city, obviously like around the world. And people need to be held accountable. And like, I don't know, it's frightening, it's disgusting. And it's also disgusting that it hasn't gotten more media attention either, because every victim from Thursday night deserves justice. And it shouldn't be that hard to do because, you know, we have CCTVs everywhere. Like we have plenty of footage, like facial recognition. They know who did this. So like get to work.